This week it was announced in our state that there would be 20,000 vaccines available next week, and people are starting to really let me know that they are getting appointments and getting vaccinated. After a year of waiting and months of listening to news about the next steps for ourselves and for our nation, it begins to look like things are gathering some momentum. Oh, we have a long way to go, for sure, before we hit herd immunity, but still we're on our way. Vaccines are the first step. But the bigger question in my mind is, what does healing look like after a pandemic like this in a nation that's lost almost 500,000 people to this disease, and there we'll hit that milestone, I'm sure. How do you heal? What does emotional and spiritual healing look like, even if we figure out physical healing? Well, the Bible has all kinds of stories about healing. And the thing that's interesting about the stories is they're not as miraculous as they might at first seem. Jesus often asks people when he's about to heal them, what do you want? What is it that you want? And somehow their self-determination, their sense of their goal, their sense of who they are and who they want to be is an important first step in healing. There's a story in the Bible that makes this really clear. It's an odd one, though. It's in John's Gospel, the beginning of chapter 5. And it's about a man who had been living next to a healing pool for 38 years. This place was in Jerusalem, and apparently the pool was fed by water from an underground spring. And every once in a while the water would gurgle up and the surface of the water would bubble, and people believed that if you were the first one in the water when that happened, you'd be healed. So lots of people who were sick gathered at that place and basically camped out there anticipating the moment when the waters would gurgle and they would get into the water. And this poor man never made it. So he stayed there for 38 years, unsuccessful in his attempt to be healed. And when Jesus came along, he said to the man, "What do you want?" It was fascinating to me because he might have said, let me fix that for you, or let me help you get in the water, or I'll pick you up, or I'll do something else. But instead, he says to the man, "What do you want?" And when the man said he wanted to be healed, he said, "Good. You've determined your destiny, so now go pursue it. Because your determination to be healed is the most important step here." I think we have a lot more agency than we realize. That's what the Bible says. The Bible says you need to figure out what you want and then make it happen. One of the best examples I know of that recently is Stacey Abrams. I don't know if you know the whole story about Stacey Abrams, but she was in the Georgia House of Representatives for a decade before she ran for governor of Georgia. And then when she ran for governor, the race was pretty close. She ran against Brian Kemp, and Brian Kemp had been the Secretary of State in Georgia. While he was serving in that capacity, he spent a lot of time cleaning the rolls. In other words, taking people off the voter registration that he thought that didn't qualify according to the rules and laws of the state. And he purged 1.4 million people, many of them people of color, from the rolls. When Stacey Abrams ran against Brian Kemp, she lost the race for governor in 2018. But after the race was over, many people took a harder look at the rolls and the registrations and the rules, and she started a program called Fair Fight. She decided that she had lost in part because a lot of people had been denied the right to vote. And she thought that it would make sense to put some energy behind getting them the ability to vote going forward. So over the last 2 years, she was able to go to people's homes in poor neighborhoods and help them figure out the system and get on the rolls. She went to campuses, she went throughout the state, raising awareness of voter registration. She was able, through Fair Fight, to enroll 800,000 new voters, or people who'd been scrubbed from the rolls. So it was a very different election in 2020 when Reverend Raphael Warnock ran for senator. Clear to say that probably he wouldn't have won that race, which was really close, had the Fair Fight people not been able to give people a chance to register to vote. What Stacey Abrams did was she said, I want to heal this. I want to take some responsibility for this. I want to make a difference here. See, I think when Jesus comes with that question, he's asking the people in his day and all the people down through the ages to our time, what do you want? What are you prepared to do to make a difference? What kind of a world do you want? What kind of a community do you want? Things may not be right where you are, but what are you prepared to do to make changes so that they'll be better? That's the question we all need to ask as we consider what healing looks like after this pandemic. What do we want? What kind of a world do we want? What kind of a community do we want? What kind of families do we want? And what are we prepared to do to make those changes? This is The Goal. I'm Susan Cartmell. Thanks for listening.